In this episode, we're happy to share an interview with Allen Lalonde, Senior Executive for IBM Research and Development, on the opening of the IBM Innovation Space, a new startup hub in Toronto which is designed to accelerate innovation.
It's a very different message when somebody who's a two-person shop and goes and visits one big multinational and tries to sell their idea or their product. It's quite another when that entrepreneur goes and sells that product and says it's been developed with, through, and by IBM using enterprise-ready capabilities, and IBM can attest to both our credibility to deliver on this promise, but the scalability that you need as a multinational company.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of WRLWND Radio. I'm Marcello Sukhdeo, your host. On Wednesday of this week, IBM, in partnership with the Ontario Centres of Excellence and the Government of Ontario, launched the IBM Innovation Space. The objective of this hub is to provide a means to help entrepreneurs, startups, and developers so that they can work on innovative ideas and move rapidly their business plans from research to commercialization. In speaking with Allen, I asked why was Toronto selected for this initiative?
Well, I think for a number of reasons. I'd love to say it's one, but it's a lot of things. As a 105-year-old company, IBM has a history not just of innovation, but we've built our company on innovation. I work for IBM Canada, and importantly, certainly we want to do the right thing. We want to make sure that we're giving back to our community. We're investing in our country. IBM is one of the largest R&D investors in the country consistently. And so it's an important place for us to do business, but we want to do the right thing. So certainly that's a motivation that is there. But certainly there's an element of opportunity here as well. I think that together with our government partners, certainly the provincial government of Ontario, but also even the federal government, local governments, I think they're increasingly recognizing that the capacity to innovate is really a fundamental lever for growth in the country, in their province. And when you as a company, as IBM, identify that the people with whom you need to collaborate know that collaboration is critical, it starts to create some momentum.
And that momentum was started in 2010-2011 with IBM in collaboration with the Ontario Centres of Excellence and the Government of Ontario working to identify the needs for entrepreneurs and startups and how to address their needs.
We identified that the province's capacity to innovate, the province's capacity to support economic growth was limited in part by the lack of capabilities to really truly collaborate from a technology standpoint, but there were also some internal barriers to collaboration. And we set about changing that by creating the Southern Ontario Smart Computing Innovation Platform, SOSIP. How could we bring together universities and industry together with government to support the adoption and use of high-performance computing as an enabler to economic growth, as an accelerator to commercialization? So that initiative kicked off in 2012, started with 7 universities. We put in place at the time the 3 most novel high-performance computing platforms in the country, the fastest supercomputer in the country, the first field programmable gate array platform, the first and largest dedicated research analytics cloud. And it has grown since. We now have 4 platforms. We have a large memory system as part of SOSIP. We now have 15 academic university college partners. We've now led more than 90 projects where industry, small business, and academia work together. And the goal is to execute applied research projects that have as an endpoint a path to commercialization. And so every project has an entrepreneur that is working with it to capitalize on that new intellectual property and take it to market. But together with the province, Marcello, we identified that that wasn't enough, that addressed, I'm going to call it half of the innovation life cycle. The traditional R&D side of things and kind of early commercialization. But as companies then started down that path of incubation and commercialization, they needed some of the same kinds of support. They needed access to infrastructure, global, competitive, world-leading infrastructure. They needed disruptive technologies, and they could neither afford nor did they have the skill to do that. But they also needed support for design thinking. They needed support for how do they work in export markets. They needed support for that business development side of things. And so this program launched in February, the IBM Innovation Incubator Initiative in Ontario, together with the province and with OCE, is an extension to SOSIP in those ways. It's an extension to that initiative we started in 2012, but really addresses those entrepreneurs and startups who are at that point of commercializing and scaling and giving them the tools that they need to better compete on a global stage.
This sort of collaboration is not only limited to Ontario. Building on what was started in Ontario, IBM has been working with other regions in Canada as well.
We've now effectively built more than 15 to 20 large strategic collaboration initiatives across the country. And each of those initiatives, from Newfoundland all the way to British Columbia, are different flavors addressing different regional needs and priorities and different barriers or gaps in the innovation life cycle that are there. So what looks like SOSIP in Ontario looks a little differently in Newfoundland and focuses on their opportunity, which is around genomics and patient care, as an example. Or in Nova Scotia is around oceans and around building a digital curriculum effectively to graduate students that have those skills. Or it might be advanced manufacturing in Quebec or semiconductor business, as an example. So there's a number of big SOSIP-like initiatives across the country that IBM very proudly not just participates in, but is in many ways a leader in. And from each of those, we are now developing this next phase, as I said earlier, of support around commercialization and incubation. And so this center, this position at 185 Spadina is a critical gem in establishing that capacity amongst the Ontario network of entrepreneurs in the province. But it will work with Mars, DMZ, Venture Labs, Invest Ottawa, the network that is here. But we're also launching similar type spaces in other locales. For example, we've recently announced the establishment of a healthcare innovation space in Hamilton in collaboration and partnership with Hamilton Health Sciences to build effectively a healthcare innovation ecosystem in and around Hamilton, the second largest hospital research institute in Canada, as an example. We'll be building similar capabilities across the country. And as I mentioned earlier, in those other 5 major incubators and 14 regional innovation spaces, we also have taken both a physical position, but as well a programmatic position in trying to extend what we're doing here at Spadina to those other locales as well.
Support is critical for startups, and with IBM's global reach, a program that is called Support of Soft Landing has been providing the support needed to reach success.
One of the elements of our incubation program is that we have positioned support for soft landings. And what that means, Marcello, is that a company that is sitting here at 185 Spadina on a Wednesday can actually complete their work, pack up, get on a plane, fly to Beijing, seat themselves at IBM's Innovation Space in Beijing, and feel like they have the exact same support. So they no longer have to learn the network, find infrastructure, understand where mentorship is going to come from, where that business is. We've soft landed them in IBM Innovation Spaces around the world.
Allen went on to highlight the benefits for innovators by pointing to 2 of the biggest challenges that the province has been facing with startups.
When we started to talk to the government of Ontario around this program, they asked us to really work with them to identify 2 big challenges. And those challenges were that entrepreneurs or startups, as they were ready to grow, really were the distinguishing feature between success and not success was 2 pieces. One was, where were they getting their first customer? And secondly was, how could we help them to scale appropriately? Not to grow too quickly or too soon, but to grow soon enough and to think export and global such that they could scale and be part of that success as quickly as they could. And so the important part of that was to build what we called an open innovation marketplace. So to address the first half of that support for first customer, we thought it important not just to support entrepreneurs in this space, but I call it a collision space, to collide those entrepreneurs with our large enterprise clients, collaborators, and partners, so that the innovators were innovating on things that were needed, pains that were real, market opportunity that was ready. And so it's important that we collide those entrepreneurs with the large companies with whom IBM works every day. And not only does it mean that innovators are innovating based on need or opportunity, but it's also adding immediately to the credibility component of that. It's a very different message when somebody who's a two-person shop and goes and visits one big multinational and tries to sell their idea or their product. It's quite another when that entrepreneur goes and sells that product and says it's been developed with, through, and by IBM using enterprise-ready capabilities, and IBM can attest to both our credibility to deliver on this promise, but the scalability that you need as a multinational company. So the support for first customer was a really critical component of what was designed in this network and this collision space. The other side of it was the scalability piece. And I talked about the need for entrepreneurs to be scale ready from the outset. They need to be not just coached and mentored and advised as to how to grow, when to grow, and which markets to address, but they need the kinds of tools, networks, infrastructure, training, support that go with that. So they can credibly sit in front of those customers and say, I can scale to millions of your clients and be ready from day one.
The new Innovation Hub is not limited to a specific industry, but is open to other sectors as well.
We're quite literally open to just about any sector or industry. Certainly, we've worked with the province to identify or prioritize markets that were important for them: financial services, natural resources, healthcare, as an example. But that doesn't mean that digital media, that advanced manufacturing companies, that those other sectors can't be addressed. Technology, disruptive technology, is that horizontal layer that virtually every company in any sector really needs to address in this digital economy. If companies are going to be ready, if entrepreneurs are going to be ready to sell, to grow, to scale, then the use of the leveraging of the comfort with disruptive technologies like cognitive computing, like cloud computing, like analytics is not only nice to have, it's an absolute necessity to compete. So we're going to support all of those companies here. And in large part, we'll see people coming in, sometimes for 3 months, sometimes for 9 months, but really we're helping to scale rapidly, to mature rapidly. And our success is when they leave this space and we continue to support them. That's the other point that's important here.
If you are a startup and are looking to become a part of this community, Allen explains how to go about doing this.
And I would say that small businesses, entrepreneurs should reach out to the Ontario Centres for Excellence, their business development focals, who really will look for paths, onboarding ramps to this program, and really start to assess needs, responsibility, and requirements for those companies. Otherwise, the companies can look to their academic institutions who are plugged into this network. They can reach out to us directly in the Innovation Space website that we have through IBM. So there's a number of ways that people can identify this opportunity. But if an entrepreneur identifies that disruptive technologies like cognitive, like analytics, like big data are important to their value proposition, they should be thinking about how to network themselves into this program, whether it's at this space at 185 or through the 5 or 14 regional innovation centers.
That was Allen Lalonde, Senior Executive for IBM Research and Development, speaking with WRLWND Radio on the opening of the IBM Innovation Space in Toronto last Wednesday. IBM has been investing in incubator ecosystems like the Innovation Space in Toronto to help close the innovation gap and nurture research and development projects. With this new opening, several Ontario businesses have already accessed the innovation space in working with IBM. Like LifeLearn, they have created an intelligent decision support tool for veterinarians. There is also IAMI, which runs a security application on IBM Cloud to provide users the service to stop cyber intrusion and data breaches. And also there is Analytics for Life, which is a medical IT company that uses advanced signal processing techniques to extract, process, and analyze important data on patient health. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of WRLWND Radio. Thanks to Allen Lalonde and the team at IBM Canada for sharing the vision of this initiative and how startups can move rapidly to commercialization. Thanks for listening, and from all of us here at WRLWND Radio, this is Marcello Sukhdeo saying stay safe in the technology whirlwind.